Have you ever wondered why some relationships thrive while others barely survive? What if I told you the secret to lasting love isn't about grand gestures or fairy tale moments? It's about something much deeper. Welcome to Heart Tales, where we unravel the mysteries of love, one story at a time. Whether you're single, in a relationship, or just trying to figure it all out, you're in the right place. Grab a cozy blanket, maybe a cup of tea, and let's get started. Because here at Heart Tales, we believe every heart has a story worth telling. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and let's begin this journey together. Today, we're diving into a story where a girl gave his husband everything, but then he left her pregnant and homeless. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see love in a whole new light. My name is Alina. I was just 21 when I met Ethan, the man I thought I'd marry, the man I thought I'd grow old with. He was everything I wasn't: confident, bold, full of dreams and ideas. I was shy, soft-spoken, an artist at heart who loved quiet mornings and painting in the sun. He was a business major with eyes only on the future, and yet we clicked. We met in college. One stolen glance in the library turned into late-night phone calls, coffee dates, and soon I was in love. He told me I was different, that he'd never met anyone who truly believed in him the way I did. I supported him in everything: late night, study sessions, skipped meals so he could eat, part-time jobs so he could chase his startup dreams. And slowly, I started forgetting myself. We moved in together right after college. Ethan said we were building a future. That his app, some productivity startup I barely understood, was going to change everything. I believed him. I worked 2 jobs: morning shifts at a bakery, nights cleaning offices. He said he needed time to build, so I gave him mine. I even sold my paintings, the ones I poured my soul into, just so he could pay his developers. I didn't see the signs then. The way he never introduced me to his colleagues. The way he rolled his eyes when I talked about my dreams. Opening a gallery, traveling, maybe even teaching art. That's cute, baby, but one of us has to be serious. I told myself he was just stressed. That love meant patience, sacrifice. But slowly I started disappearing. First it was my art, then my friends, then my laughter, until all that was left was Ethan. And even he was slipping away. It started with late nights, work stuff, he'd say, then the perfume I didn't wear on his shirt, the text he hid, the passwords he changed. I wasn't stupid, just scared. Scared that if I asked the wrong questions, I'd lose him. After all, I had nothing else. Then one night I found out, not from him, but from her. A message, a picture, a smug caption. Thought you should know what he does after work. I confronted him. I cried, screamed, begged. He shrugged. You are holding me back, he said. You don't get it. I need someone who understands my ambition. He made me feel like I was the villain, like I'd failed him. And then, just like that, he left. A week later, I took a pregnancy test. Positive. I sat on the bathroom floor, knees against my chest, feeling the weight of the world crush me. I told him. I thought, maybe this would matter. Maybe this would bring him back. He looked at me like I was a burden. I can't deal with this. I have a launch next week. And he walked away. He didn't just leave the room. He left my life. No goodbye. No support. No guilt. Just silence. The rent was unpaid. The lights were cut off. I had no family, no savings, nowhere to go, pregnant, alone, and homeless. I ended up sleeping in my friend's storage room for weeks. I skipped meals just to save money for doctor visits. Every time I felt that tiny heartbeat inside me, I cried, not because of fear, but because of guilt. What kind of world was I bringing this child into? One cold evening, I walked into traffic, not on purpose, not exactly. I was tired, disoriented, hungry. My coat didn't zip over my belly anymore. The wind was like knives, and I just stepped off the curb. A horn, a scream, then darkness. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in a hospital. I wasn't in the cold. I was in my old dorm room. Paints, canvases, my favorite sweater. My phone buzzed with a date I hadn't seen in years. I was 19 again, back before Ethan, before betrayal, before everything. It wasn't a dream. It was a second chance. At first, I panicked. Was I hallucinating? Dead? But as the days passed, everything confirmed it. I had gone back in time. This time, I had memories, clarity, and one decision. I would never give Ethan a second of my life. When he smiled at me in the library, I smiled back politely and walked away. When he asked to study together, I declined. I wasn't rude, just uninterested. He didn't understand. He tried harder. I became a challenge, but I'd learned my lesson. Love should never cost you your soul. Instead, I focused on me. I painted again, entered competitions. I traveled on student grants. I said yes to everything I once denied myself for love. I became someone I barely recognized, but deeply respected. In one of my classes, I met someone new. His name was Jonah. He wasn't flashy or ambitious like Ethan. He was quiet, kind, and genuinely interested in people. He helped me carry my supplies after class, listened to my rambles about art and meaning and memory. We became friends, and slowly, something more. He never rushed me, never pressured. He was just there, constant, safe. But I wasn't ready to love again, not yet. I needed to be whole first. Of course, Ethan noticed. By the time he realized I was the one who got away, I had already built an art portfolio that was gaining attention. He cornered me outside a gallery one night. "Alina, you're glowing. I've missed you." I laughed. The old me would have melted. But now, I just felt tired. "You missed controlling me, Ethan." Big difference. He tried to win me back. Flowers, apologies, promises. I've changed. You were always the one who saw me. "No," I said. "I was the one who saw through you." That was the last time we spoke. Chapter 8. Choosing myself. Never told Jonah about the past. Not all of it. Some scars are too deep to share too soon, but he respected my space. One evening he brought me a gift, a sketchbook, hand-bound, with my name etched into the leather. "You don't have to say yes. I just wanted you to know, I see you, all of you." I cried, not out of sadness, but because for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I felt safe. I didn't say yes to love that night, but I said yes to me. Years passed. I opened my own gallery, held workshops for young artists, traveled, laughed, lived. And then, one spring morning, I painted something I hadn't dared to before. A child. Not out of grief or loss, but out of possibility. Maybe one day I'd have a child, on my terms, in a home full of light, with a partner, or maybe not, because this time, I was whole on my own. Jonah became a fixture in my life, like the sun rising quietly each day, asking nothing in return. We started spending weekends together, gallery hopping, coffee dates, bookstore marathons. He respected my silences. He never asked why I flinched at certain memories, why I hesitated when he reached for my hand, and that made me trust him. One evening we sat on a rooftop, watching the city glow below. He looked at me and said softly, "You carry storms in your eyes sometimes, Alina, but I like the way you've learned to dance in the rain." That night, I kissed him, not out of loneliness, not out of fear, but because he made me feel like I wasn't broken, just beautifully mended. By 27, I had 3 solo exhibitions. My name was slowly becoming known in artistic circles. I started a mentorship program for young women in the arts. I gave the version of me from the first life everything she never had: support, safety, and the freedom to dream. Jonah helped build my first official gallery, brick by brick. He wasn't wealthy, but he believed in what I built like it was his own. One night, I stood in the middle of the gallery with the lights dimmed and whispered, "I feel like I'm finally living." He replied, "No, you're finally choosing to live." News broke like wildfire one afternoon. Ethan Reyes scandal. Startup mogul, under investigation for fraud. He'd made it, just like in the first life. But this time, the lies caught up with him. I was at a cafe when it hit the TV. People whispered, some laughed, and there he was, hands cuffed, escorted into a courtroom. The universe had a strange way of giving closure. Later that week, I got a message request from him. "Can we talk?" I have no one left. For a split second, I hesitated, and then I deleted it. No hate, no bitterness, just peace. At a charity gala, I gave a speech. It was the first time I shared a piece of my past publicly, stood before the crowd and said, "Years ago, I lost myself in the name of love. I gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left. Then I was left behind, with a life growing inside me and no roof over my head. But that pain taught me something powerful. You cannot water someone else's garden by draining your own soul, and you are never selfish for choosing yourself." The room fell silent, then a thunder of applause. Jonah watched from the front row, eyes misty, hands steady. Later, someone approached me and asked, "Was that story real?" I smiled. Every word of it. That night, I dreamed of a child, a little girl, dark hair, hazel eyes, running through a field of sunflowers. She turned, smiled, and called me Mommy. I woke up with tears streaming down my face. It was the baby from the first timeline, a life that never came to be. But her memory wasn't pain anymore. She was a reminder of resilience, of rebirth, of everything I survived. One spring day, Jonah and I walked hand in hand through the city. We passed a park, and I paused to watch children play. Jonah turned to me and said, "Do you think you'd ever want kids?" I took a deep breath. I used to be terrified of that idea, but now, maybe one day, if it's meant to be. He smiled. Then we'll see where life takes us. And in that moment, I knew this was the life I was meant to live, not the one defined by sacrifice, but one built on choice, respect, and peace. It wasn't extravagant. There were no flash mobs, no cameras, just Jonah and I, sitting on a bench under a willow tree in our favorite park. He pulled out a small wooden box and said quietly, "I don't want to own you, fix you, or save you. I just want to walk beside you, wherever your art, your fire, your dreams take you." Inside the box wasn't a diamond. It was a silver ring engraved with a single word, home. I didn't say yes immediately. Instead, I leaned my head on his shoulder and whispered, "I'll walk with you too," because it wasn't about fairy tales anymore. It was about building something real. A year later, I opened my biggest project yet, Canvas Haven, a creative sanctuary for girls from broken homes, foster care, and abusive pasts. Girls like me. I taught them to sketch pain, paint joy, write truth. One student, a quiet 16-year-old named Mariah, reminded me so much of myself that it shook me. She once asked, "Why do people leave the ones who love them the most?" And I looked her in the eyes and said, "Because they don't know how to love themselves. But that's not your fault. Never was." She cried, and I held her. That day, I realized I hadn't just healed, I was helping others heal too. I was invited to give a TED Talk. My story had become a quiet phenomenon online, shared, reposted, translated. I debated turning it down until I received an anonymous email. "I'm sorry for everything. I saw your story. I was wrong. About you. About everything. Ethan, the ghost of a life that once devoured me." I walked onto that TED stage with shaking hands, and I told the world I was once left pregnant and homeless by the man I loved. But that wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Not all scars are ugly. Some are proof that we survived. The crowd stood, and I felt nothing but peace. I never thought I'd try again, but life had other plans. One August morning, I held a test in my hand, positive. This time I didn't cry out of fear, smiled. Jonah wept when I told him, not because he was scared, but because he was ready. We were ready. When our daughter was born, I named her something special. Serena, for serenity, for strength, for second chances. When I held her, I felt like I was holding every version of myself I'd fought to become, and I whispered, "I'll never let you forget how powerful love can be when it starts with loving yourself first." Years passed. Serena grew. Jonah and I aged like good art, weathered, colorful, full of story. One day, I stood before my last gallery piece, a massive canvas covered in layers of reds, golds, silvers, and blues. In the corner was a small silhouette of a woman walking away from a burning house toward a sunrise. I titled it Reborn, and beneath it I wrote, "This was never about the man who left me. This was always about the woman I became after." And just like that, the story came full circle. Serena was everything I never knew I needed. Bright, inquisitive, fierce. At 5, she asked me, "Mommy, were you always this strong?" I laughed, kissed her forehead, and said, "No, I had to fall apart first." As she grew, I watched her become the kind of girl I once dreamed I could be, confident, unafraid to speak, aware of her worth. She painted too. One afternoon, she brought me a drawing. It was of 2 women, one older, one younger, standing before a burning house. Behind them, a golden sunrise. "What's this?" I asked, blinking back tears. She smiled. "It's you and me, walking into our happy ending." I visited the city I once slept in as a broken girl, the alley where I hid from the cold, the bakery I begged for part-time work, the hospital I couldn't afford. I stood on that street corner, the one where I nearly stepped into traffic, the night the world turned upside down, and I whispered, "Thank you." Not because it was kind, but because it was crucial. Sometimes, rock bottom is where you build your foundation. I let go of the guilt, the fear, even the memory of the baby I lost in the other life. That pain had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. I hosted my final exhibition. The gallery was filled with decades of art, each piece a chapter of survival, rebirth, and quiet power. I stood beside Jonah and Serena, surrounded by people who once saw me as a tragic artist. Now they saw me as a teacher, a mother, a woman who rose. Mariah, the girl I once mentored, introduced me on stage. She said, "Alina taught me that love is never supposed to hurt, that leaving isn't weakness, and that being reborn doesn't mean forgetting. It means forgiving yourself for who you had to be, just to survive. The applause was deafening. But all I heard was peace. In my old journals, I found a page I wrote during the worst nights of my first life. It read, "Dear future me, if you survive this, don't let it harden you. Don't let it take your light. Remember, you are not what he did to you. You are what you choose after." I smiled and added beneath it, "I chose me." And that saved everything. If you're listening to this, wondering if it gets better, it does. Maybe not quickly, maybe not quietly, but certainly. You might feel like your world ended, but what if I told you it just began? You are not unworthy because someone left. You are not broken because you gave your all, and you are not alone in your story. I was once pregnant, betrayed, and sleeping on cold floors. Now I'm a mother, an artist, a survivor, not because I was stronger than anyone else, but because I chose to live, again, to anyone who's ever been abandoned, forgotten, underestimated. This is your sign. Be reborn. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button. Comment your thought and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, spread love.